Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Texas Senior Medicare Patrol Scam of the Month, March edition. This month, you're in for a real treat because our coordinator in South Texas, Mr. Robert Obregon, will be talking about scams, big scams that you have to watch out for, including your telephone. We call it government imposters, how to stay safe. Speaking of staying safe, did you know there's a very special week in the month of March? It's National Consumer Protection Week. It's March 6th through March 12th, and your Texas Senior Medicare Patrol is ready to bring you the best information out there. In fact, we have special guest speakers lined up for this whole entire week just for you to keep you safe. So, for more information, please contact us.
Good morning. My name is Rob Obregon. I'm with the Texas Senior Medicare Patrol, and this morning I'm going to tell you a little bit about Social Security and how and why so many people are being scammed via their Social Security, and just exactly how much that Social Security number is worth to the scammer and to you. That's see how much you lose just because it doesn't come directly out of your pocket. Okay. Social Security came about in 1935 during the middle of the Great Depression, right? It was the government's way of trying to help the unemployed, well, first of all, the elderly, and then the disabled and the widowed mothers and orphans, right? Those were the three main targets that they wanted to help, that Social Security was enacted for, right? Now, as time went on, other programs were created that are connected to Social Security. For that reason, a lot of you who request public assistance in one form or another are surprised that they have to go through a very complicated system. And what you don't understand or realize is that Social Security number that everybody asks you for is really your identification. Now, up to 1965, the only ones who were getting a Social Security number were people that were fully employed. In that manner, the IRS was able to collect your federal taxes every payday. So unless you had a full-time job, you really weren't being affected by Social Security, because you would hear about it, but you really didn't realize it. Like I myself did not get my Social Security number until I was 15 years old. And most of the people my age were getting theirs about the same time. This was because we were going out and getting jobs at the car wash or sacking groceries, or to some of these government youth programs that used to put us to work, so to keep us out of trouble. I mean, they all required that Social Security number, so all of us went to the local government office and pick up a card, fill it out with our name, date of birth, etc., all our information, and in some cases, our parents had to sign it, and then we'd submit it. 2 weeks later, we would get our Social Security card in the mail. I mean, and that was a big step, Dave. That means we were 15 years old. We were growing up. We were almost adults. You know, it was a big deal to have a Social Security card in your wallet. You had a Social Security number there. Now, in 1965, Medicare and Medicaid were enacted. Now, the Medicare system is very complicated. But the point I want to get across to you is that Medicare number is good for close to $30,000 worth of medical treatment per year that you're entitled to, be it doctor's visits. In some cases, very rarely, in some cases, they will cover dental. They cover almost everything, but it is a complicated system, right? That's where a lot of people fall for scams. 65. Everyone from then on, Medicaid was established. So everybody who was going to participate in these programs had to have a social security number. So from that day on, from 65, 66, newborns were getting a Medicare number as soon as they were born. You know, babies with had social security numbers from day one. That was part of the process at the hospital when checking out. You would be applying for a Medicare number for a Medicare or rather a social security number for your baby. So there were social security numbers all over the place. Now at that time also the military or armed forces started using your social security number for identification, just like I mean, they used to issue you a serial number. They stopped doing that around 1965, 66, and started using social security numbers for all the men in the armed forces, and that was their identity. Now, I was surprised when I first went to college in 1969. My social security number was used for everything to identify the students. You know, that's when I was really surprised, and that's when everybody started memorizing their social security numbers. And I have to admit, it was a good idea when it came to maintaining some kind of order for keeping your records going properly and properly identifying you. That was a good idea. So it worked for a while. It worked great. However, the scammers came along and saw an opportunity. Now, this was in the late 60s. Computers were not around yet, right? Cell phones were not around. If you used a telephone, you were tethered to the wall with it. But, however, if you were a college student, you were your social security number. You were not your name. About that time, James Bond movies were very popular, and the secret agent man, and they've given you a number and thrown away your name. Well, we didn't realize that that's what they were doing to us, to all of us. We were now a number. We were no longer our name. So, and again, a good idea. However, scammers came along. They saw the opportunity, and the technology of today was being developed. Computers, the internet, etc. And pretty soon, it became possible to steal your identity, your full identity. And I mean, everything from what hospital you were born in, what school you attended back in first grade, all of that information is now available out on the dark web somewhere. It's floating around. So identity theft is very easy with that social security number that I need to prove that I am you. Now that doesn't sound right, is it? It's not supposed to, but it can actually fool the social security system, the Medicare system, the Medicaid system, your bank, your credit card accounts. I can assume all of that with just that number alone, right? Now, if I can gather your name and date of birth, I can do the same thing. So we need to be careful about all these telephone calls that we receive that want to verify our information. It says, send people that call you from out of nowhere, or emails that you get saying, we need to verify that it is you. You possibly have an inheritance of $40,000 or $50,000. They make it sound real. They don't necessarily use $1 million anymore, but they make it sound real. I mean, if you could get 40,000 that you didn't know you had, you'd probably go for it. So they make it sound a little bit real because we keep telling people that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Whereas if it's only 35,000 or 40,000, okay, that's possible. So these scammers are ahead of you, but you need to catch up with them and inform yourself about all the different ways that your information can be used. You need to understand just how powerful that Social Security number is and how lucrative scamming the Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security system is. That people our age, those of us over 55, really, but then the older that we get, the more lucrative. We make up 1/4 of the population. However, that 1/4 of us, that 80 million of us elderly that are out there, control over 75% of all the money that's readily available, all the money in the bank, all the credit available on your credit cards, all your investments, your property. We own it. 75% of the money available is controlled by the elderly. Consequently, and I haven't even added the 30,000 a year that Medicare throws in there. So consequently, we are the big target for all the scamming that's going on, all the swindling. I mean, scamming is so prevalent that legitimate salesmen and legitimate telemarketers are being elbowed out. They can't get their foot in the door anymore because, and I'll admit it, hopefully it's because of their receiving the message that we've been trying to tell people for the last 10 years here in Texas, that you need to protect yourself. We come from the era of don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, right? It's not that way anymore. We had the culture of ethical behavior back then when we were growing up. Nowadays, it's that we're in the middle of a scamdemic. I mean, the scam, it's very easy for anyone to become a scammer. It's very easy to, so many of them start out with an honest mistake that they made, and they saw that the system paid out anyway. So be careful how you use that Social Security number. Guard your personal information. Don't be afraid to be rude, right? It could be very shrewd of you to be rude nowadays. I know we weren't raised that way. I know we weren't taught that way. We're taught to be courteous, friendly, don't be suspicious, etc. of anyone. But now we're on the defensive. What you have, protect what you have, protect what you, all your possessions. Check up on your property deeds, on your bank accounts, on your credit card accounts, etc. regularly. Learn how to use the internet to defend yourself, right? It is not that hard, and it's very convenient. You don't have to go in person to take care of business anymore. I know that's the way we used to prefer it, and I honestly, I still prefer to talk to a live person myself, but we need to adapt to the technology that's out there because it is being used against us. Believe me, it's being used. We are being manipulated. We are being swindled without feeling a thing until 2 or 3 years later, when that's what the power of that Social Security number, right? So guard your personal information. Don't be so naive. I know you weren't brought up that way again, okay? I mean, be suspicious of those door-to-door salespeople. Don't be afraid to ask for their true identity. Don't just accept I'm Mary, I'm Robert, I'm whatever name they give you. If you're gonna do business with someone, identify them fully first. Ask for their driver's license, ask for their home address. Don't be afraid to defend yourself, and reassure them that you're only gonna use that information. If something goes wrong, they need to get in touch with them. Don't just give me an 800 number. Most of all, don't be afraid to tell people if you do fall victim to one of these scammers. It is better to let others know and spread the word about just how devastating the experience was. That will prompt all others to be more careful because it does happen. It doesn't just happen to somebody far away from you. It's happening to you. If it hasn't happened to you, it's happening to your neighbor. The IRS, Social Security, any government agency will not call you directly to verify your information. They already have all that. So you can feel safe just hanging up. Okay, just hang up if you get that kind of call. The official method of communication with most of these agencies, all of these federal agencies, is the United States Postal Service. They will send you a letter, and depending on how serious the matter might be, it might even be a certified letter. That doesn't mean that you are at fault or that you are guilty of anything. There just means that they're trying to reach you and make sure that you receive notice. So don't be afraid to exercise your rights. Don't be afraid of somebody calls you on a recorded line. That don't mean nothing, like we used to say back in the 60s. That don't mean nothing. So protect yourself and don't be afraid to protect yourself.
Thank you all so much for joining us. And thank you, Robert, for providing us all with that very important information. Now you, our viewers, you have a mission. Please pass this information on to friends, families, loved ones, neighbors. We don't want anyone scammed. And if you are a victim, remember, contact the Senior Medicare Patrol. We are here to help you.